first question for you, Megan, is just kind of tell everyone who you are, where you're from, what your day job is, and kind of your overall tennis journey.
Okay. So I'm Megan Moulton-Levy. I am the general manager of player development at Junior Tennis Champion Center. So it's a world-renowned training facility for high-performance junior athletes. I now oversee all of the tennis operations. So that's from high-performance juniors to little kids learning how to play, to adults learning how to play, to our adaptive, which we have wheelchair veterans. We have all sorts of people. Our slogan is tennis for everybody. And I manage the tennis operation in College Park, Maryland. I'm also on the board of directors. I'm an elite athlete representative on the USTA board of directors. And I was able to kind of assume that space within the board because, like one of the other founders of this company, Eric Budarak, he and I played professionally. He and I actually played mixed doubles at the US Open one year. So we go way back. We know each other really well. But I wasn't quite as fancy as Eric. I only got up to 50 in the world in doubles, played all the slams, traveled around the world playing tennis and just doing what I love. Now, my tennis journey, I'm the youngest of 4 girls. And every Sunday, my family, we would wake up, pile in the car, and go play tennis. So like I said, I'm the youngest. For those of you who may or may not know, I'm only 5 feet tall. So the only thing I could do was actually hit volleys because the ball would bounce too high and I'd just be up at the net hitting volleys. So it's no surprise that I became a pretty good doubles player with my volleys at the net. So that was my kind of introduction to the sport. And I played growing up, but academics is supremely important to my family. So my parents are both Jamaican. It's pretty common to send your kid to boarding school. And so I went to boarding school like the rest of my family, but I got to continue to play tennis, but I lived in Switzerland for 5 years of my life. So what we're doing with Atlas Tennis is directly correlated to my upbringing and my experience with tennis.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's such a cool story, so unique. And you started to talk about it, but I just want to have you keep going. Why Atlas Tennis? What about the concept really appealed to you, and why did you decide to get involved?
I mean, look, like I said, for me and my family, being exposed to the world, I'm a first generation immigrant to this country, and so I understand what it's like to be from a different culture. And for my family, education and exposure to different food, different languages, that's how we kind of interacted with this country. And it's really important that my parents transferred to me. You have got to see the world. There's so many things that you don't know, and it just makes you a much more well-rounded person when you have to deal with the challenges of being in a different country, trying to communicate, trying to figure out what you're going to eat, and just these challenges that we all face as we get older. The sooner you can overcome these obstacles, the better you're going to be prepared for life. Now, I had tennis as my vehicle to really figure out who I was. It was my challenge. So I got to be anchored in an activity, not just idly wandering the world. I was anchored in a pursuit of excellence while being able to be exposed to all these different cultures. So it is truly the life that I lived, and I had such a wonderful experience. I feel like it's really formed who I am as an individual, and I want to pass this to as many kids who are open to really being challenged.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it is people being open to the challenge. I think it's one of those things like anything where you get out what you put in, and everyone that comes on the trip that has that, that right mindset, which I think everyone's going to, they're going to get so much out of it.
But I think, Ben, also, this is about tennis, right? Atlas Tennis and seeing the world through the eyes of tennis, but the academic enrichment, everyone's forced to learn a language when they're in school. So really having the ability to practice, we're going to take kids to Spain, we're going to take Italy, to France. All of these languages, they're probably learning in school. It's much different learning in a textbook versus having to go to a restaurant and say, je dois manger, just figuring out how to actually communicate in a language that you've learned in the native country is an invaluable experience for learning.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and could not agree more. Again, you kind of touched on this, but we're focusing right now on Atlas on, giving these experiences to teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is, special about, people of that age, that makes them kind of our target audience, as we get started?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a demographic that I work with on a daily basis. So I understand that this group of young people are really figuring out who they are in the world. So their personalities are there, but not quite cemented. The brain isn't fully developed yet. So there are all of these external stimuli and input that they can receive that's going to really mold who they become as adults. So I think it's a pivotal time where they're open, they don't know who they are, they're trying to figure out who they are, and having some of these experiences may really impact how they show up in the world later on in life.
Well said. What does success look like for Atlas Tennis in your eyes?
Success looks like the pursuit of constant improvement. Okay, so these kids are going to come on this trip and they're going to really be locked in, just totally engaged in getting better as people, but also learning how to relate to others. I mean, a big component of these trips is the kids are going to have to interact with each other and build and form relationships. With many of you probably listening to this know that that's the foundation of a life well lived, is being able to connect with others, have shared experiences, and build long-lasting relationships. So this is what I hope through tennis. You see the world and you build some really amazing relationships that you'll have for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I think the five of us, myself, and 4 founding partners, we've all had our own experience where that combination of tennis and travel has opened up so many new doors in terms of relationships and like meeting people and having these lifelong friendships and connections. And I think that's why we're all like so confident that it's pretty tried and true combination of factors that just creates amazing relationships. Thinking back on your own experiences traveling and playing tennis, whether that's, living in Switzerland, being on the tour, playing, extremely successful college tennis, do you have 1 or 2 experiences or memories that stand out that are most special and impactful for you?
I don't know if it's impactful, because I think it made me realize that when you're so tired, you can make a choice to be great or to succumb to the fatigue. And I'm sure Eric probably remembers these days. You spend an entire year as a professional athlete playing, and you get to October and you compete at the US Open, and then all of a sudden you got to jump on a flight in 5 days and be in China. And it's a culture that is so different to the culture to Europe, to America, to South America. It's very different. But you have a choice to see this as an opportunity or an obstacle. So what I would love to do and I think the restaurant is LA Palms. I love food. So I would search for the best restaurants in Beijing. And we landed upon a Korean, like taco Korean place in Beijing that I always looked for when we got to Beijing. But I think the point of it to me was like, okay, you can make the best out of any situation. So choose to do that. And that's what I was able to do at the last stretch of the year, which was always so challenging.
Okay, so of the countries that we have kind of on our itineraries for this summer, which one is most exciting to you? Which one do you wish you could kind of go on the trip with?
Look, I speak French, so France is an obvious choice, but maybe a less obvious choice in a country that I absolutely adore is Spain. My Spanish is not quite so great, so I would love the opportunity to practice and get better at that. And the food is absolutely delicious. And the people, you know, as you get closer to the sea, and we'll be going to Barcelona, as you get closer to the sea, the people are so relaxed. So there's a way of being that is, they get things done. They want to be as great as they can be at whatever they're doing, but they also understand that there's a time for rest and a time for self nurturing yourself, right? You know, they have these long siestas. Family is important. Time with those who you love is important. So there's an element of their culture that I think we as Americans could embrace a little bit, just knowing when to take a step, and work is here, play is here, family is here. These things are really important to them.
Okay, last question. In your words, why should someone go on an Atlas tennis trip?
Adventure, excellence, friendship.
No need to say more than that.
That's it. Boom, drop the mic.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, I think that covers it. Anything else you want to throw in?
Not that I can think of. I mean, look, this is just going to be a unique experience for these kids, these families. I'm a parent of two, so to be on the receiving end of a teenager who's going to go on this trip and how they're going to come back transformed, I think is also really exciting for the parents, to allow their kids to be independent and to go explore the world and see how are they going to come back a different person or slightly modified, better version of themselves. So I think it's also a great experience for the parents to let their kids clip their wings and let them be free and gain some independence and see the world.